Welcome, everybody, to our magical May Mastermind study of the KYBALION.
So welcome, everybody. We're so happy to have all of you along this journey with us. This study is so important, especially for people that are seeking, to create their own reality. So it's such a beautiful continuation from the 11 laws that we studied. But this goes really it's a little bit more deep, so you understand where everything started. It really gives you a really good, deep understanding of the whole philosophy of where the 11 universal laws started. So for those of you who don't know the story, I kind of mentioned it on the last Mastermind, but we're starting fresh. So the KYBALION came to me on 3 different occasions. It came to me through a mentor that was in Montreal, and when he sent it to me, I didn't understand the text. The text was very heavy, and I didn't get it. And although I asked him to explain it to me, I still couldn't grasp the concepts. And then when I came to Miami, a few weeks into when I landed here, I met a gentleman who also spoke to me about the KYBALION. So the book came twice to me. And at that time, I still didn't show an interest. And not too long ago, as we started studying the universal laws, the KYBALION came to me a 3rd time. And well, at that time, that's it. I couldn't ignore it. I was like, okay, 3 times. This book is is calling me. It's kind of like Pazit, pick me up. And so once I picked it up, I couldn't put it down. And now I understood why it was calling me. The thing is when you guys start to open your awareness, when you start studying things start coming into your life, not just people, books, situations. You start attracting all the things that you need to understand in order for you to fulfill your journey. So I'm going to start it and give you a very small overview, and then Carolyn will take it from there. And today we're going to cover basically a little bit the history of the KYBALION, where it came from, what's the philosophy based on. And we're also going to go through, I don't know if you guys noticed, but the 5 chapters of Mentalism. I kind of compressed everything, so it's really easy peasy for us to understand, and we'll go through it. So basically this book goes into the philosophical underpinnings of the 7 different, very powerful and profound universal principles. The law of attraction is actually a result of the application of these 7 principles. It goes back over 4,000 years, and it's the root of all wisdom. They call these the seed truth. And we'll be talking about all the 7 seed truths. So we actually manifest this information into our lives when we are ready to receive it. So if you're actually here, I want to congratulate you because that puts you amongst the top 1% of seekers on the planet. You are looking for seed truth, and you wouldn't be here if you were not looking for it. So welcome to the 1% of the seekers. So Carolyn, I'll give it on to you and let you go a bit deeper into the overview, and we'll continue with the law of mentalism.
Yes, so I just want to also welcome everybody, and it's never an accident that you find yourself in a certain place studying a certain kind of material with a certain group of people. So we wanted to bring this material out there, and I know you all received a copy of the KYBALION in its text form and Pazit's summary. So I'm not sure if anyone's had a chance to read. I know Andrew has read it. If anyone's had a chance to read through it, but the intention is that we read it, we study, and you guys, this is the place to ask the questions. This is the place to come when you've read a portion of the text, and the next week come in and say, okay, this part is I need to know more about this part. So what I'm going to do is just give you a little bit of an overview of what we've learned about this KYBALION text, and then we'll lead into the first part, or just the overview of the 7 principles, and then Pazit has summarized the mentalism. Okay, so so the idea of this material is that it is illuminating your path so that you can navigate more clearly. So Pazit mentioned that it's the philosophical underpinnings of 7 very powerful and profound universal principles. The law of attraction is the result. I loved this. The law of attraction is the result of the application of these 7 principles, because we know that the universe responds to action. So the knowledge is phenomenal, but we want to learn how to put it into action. So the law of attraction is the result of the application of these 7 principles that we study in this book. Why do we study this material? So that we can manifest our destiny, so that we can guide our lives and be, do, and have whatever we desire. And the reference here is to Hermes Trismegistus. Okay, he is attributed as the father of astrology, of chemistry, of mathematics, of all kinds of archaeology that goes back to the very, very beginnings of this form of race of man. And he's been called the master of masters. And indeed, there's an abundant proof that people from all over this ancient world came to study at his feet. So what's interesting for anybody who does study world religions, there's an unquestionable proof that every one of them traces its influence from and back to the Hermetic teachings. So the interesting thing is that it's not a creed, it's not a religion, it's not a theology. What it does is provide a master key. Understanding these 7 core principles of Hermetic philosophy simply provide a key, a master key, and the KYBALION is the text that provides it. So the guiding thrust of what we're studying is to get to the truth of the working principles that enable us to create, to manifest, become co-creators, and live our fullest and highest or best versions of ourselves. So regardless of what your pathway of knowledge is, regardless of what your theology or philosophy, it's going to be furthered. You're going to be able to go deeper into your understanding of your pathway through these Hermetic axioms. Now, what he did, this great teacher, was he planted seed truths. He did that instead of establishing a philosophical school, because all philosophical schools come and go. And you have these original concepts, these axioms and truths have been kept intact, and they've been passed from lip to ear, so word of mouth, from master to master, and so on, in an unbreakable chain going back 4,000 years. And that's the time of Hermes. That's the time of Abraham. Okay, so this goes back before 1,800 years before the birth of Christ. So what the KYBALION does is it goes very, very deep into these principles. And the only way to be able to apply these principles is by studying them deeply, contemplating them, and applying them to your own situation on a daily basis. So in other words, we actually manifest this information in our lives when we're ready to receive it, which is why we're all here. This book, the KYBALION, is written by 3 initiates. So if you look at your text at the beginning of the actual book, the introduction is written by the 3 initiates. So who are they? They were 3 individuals, all of them deeply steeped and influenced by these 7 Hermetic axioms. Now that term Hermetic, when we say it, that it's hermetically sealed, what does that mean? It just means that it's the impervious seal. It's kept secret, it's kept dry, it's kept inaccessible. And so the followers of these teachings have always observed the principle of secrecy. And you got to remember where this text comes from. A lot of occult back in those days, where it was considered, you were a heretic if you followed any principles outside of religious principles and so on. So you can understand why they would keep it secret. Now you see that in every generation, especially those of us that have been, that are in this generation, know that there's certain texts like Think and Grow Rich, like The Science of Getting Rich. A lot of these texts, they're all based on these original principles. So every generation, right, provides students who become masters who bring this information to the masses, right? So here's a key core critical component of this first introduction. This is the art of mental alchemy, of transforming and transmuting one mental vibrational state into another vibrational state. It's all about the use of the mind and the vibration of thought. So this entire concept, this study we are now in, leads to mental mastery of our mental faculties: reason, will, imagination, recall, intuition. These are our mental faculties. So this is the law. And those of most of you were with us during the study of the 11 invisible laws. These are the original invisible laws. So if you take this material seriously, we can tell you it will transform your life. So it's our pleasure to bring it to you and to study it with you and to have your lives in some way transformed by this text.
Absolutely. And I was going to mention something else, Carolyn. What's important in terms of having this transform your life, you have to stay in the study, especially with these texts. These texts are something that you want to review every day. You want to do it schedule like 5 or 10 minutes a day to go over a little bit of the principles every day. You don't need to chew it all up in one shot, but definitely make like a 10-minute daily ritual that you're reading into these laws, because the more you're going to read into them, the more they're going to ingrain into your mind, and the more you'll be aware of them, the more you will practice them, because you need to practice. Think of it like a gym. A trainer can tell you what exercises to do, but if you don't do the exercises, you're not developing the muscles and you're not getting toned. So it's exactly the same principle. So go ahead. So I think you're going to dive into the 7.
Yeah, just the overview of the 7. So if you guys are on the text, if you're following along, we're on page 10 of the actual KYBALION text, and we're just going to give you the overview of the 7 actual principles. Okay, and then this book is divided up into a lot more information on each of them. So the principles of truth are 7. He who knew these, understandably, possesses the magic key to the doors of the temple. So the 7 Hermetic principles upon which the entire Hermetic philosophy is based are: number 1, the principle of mentalism. So the principle of mentalism is our thoughts create our reality. As Pazit always says, our mind is our workshop. So all, we're going to talk about that today. The all is the mind. The universe is mental. Okay.
I kind of like that expression. The universe is mental.
Just reminds us that that we're keeping our sanity in check here, because these are the principles that will keep your life in order. Right? The principle of correspondence. So as above, so below. Right? All of these laws give us this sense of order and calm and all is well. So that if you keep your life following in the spirit of these laws, that by law, all will be well for you. Right? Yeah. Number 3 is the principle of vibration. And we've studied a lot of these laws. You'll recognize some of the terminology from the 11 laws that came from the 7. But this is the original state of the terminology. So the principle of vibration: nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. Principle number 4 is the principle of polarity. Everything is dual. There are poles. Everything has its pair of opposites. Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes meet, and all truths are but half-truths. All paradoxes may be reconciled. Number 5 is the principle of rhythm. Everything flows out and in. Everything has its tides. All things rise and fall. The pendulum swing manifests in everything. The principle of cause and effect. Every cause has its effect, and every effect has its cause, and we're responsible for the causes, and everything that manifests becomes the effect. So we're the ones who have to create the cause for what it is that we want to create. And the principle of gender, which is gender is in everything. So everything has its masculine and feminine. So the gender manifests on all planes. Okay, so those are the 7. And the first one, of course, is the one that really guides everything, which is the principle of mentalism. So the all is mind, the universe is mental. I love it.
I love it too. And so a reference to the all is considered infinite intelligence. In this book, we call it God. So I'm just going to call it God. It's just a name, like Pazit, like Carolyn. It's just a name, God. Okay, so I'm just going to refer to it as God, because in the text, that's how they refer to it. So when we say the all, that's what we're talking about: infinite intelligence, spirit, source. Okay, whatever makes your boat float. So mentalism is the number 1 principle, and all the others are built on it. So this is why there's so many chapters built on the law of mentalism. So the all contains everything and everybody. It is the thought. So when we talk about the all, we're talking about the thought, okay? And it is mind, everything that is. Even time has a beginning. Each and every one of us is a splinter of the one of the mind, which means Basically, the way they want you to think about this is we're all like drops, but once once you see us like, if separately we're drops, but together, if you put all those drops in the river, we are one. Like, do you still stay a drop? No, you become one with the river. So you have to kind of like, I want you to use these analogies on how you see yourself and how you see the world. So each and every one of us is a splinter of the one of the mind. As such, the material universe is not strictly material as many assume. So the first principle, the KYBALION, has 5 chapters dealing with the principle of mentalism. There's the mental transmutation, the all, the mental universe, the divine paradox, and the all in all. And whether you know it or not, we are delegates of the creators, actively creating moment by moment. And if you are not active in changing the universe, you are being passively used to do so. So choose to be an active participant. So these laws, exactly what they do is they make you an active participant. Why? Because now you understand the world from a new perspective, and you're able to use these laws to actually attract and build whatever you want. Because again, your mind is your workshop. So the first one is mental transmutation. This is one of my favorite. I practice it all the time. So everything that we think of as a reality was first conceived by the mind. So I'm going to read that again. Everything that we think of as a reality was first conceived by the mind. So that means everything around us, our laptop, our earphones, the art that you create. Where does it start? The book that you wrote, where did it start? It started in your mind. Okay, so everything is made up of the same energy. It is simply manifested in different ways. So no matter what, there is a way to transform that energy into forms. So thought is considered like the energy. It's the invisible. We can't see the thoughts, can't see it. But when you can see it is when it comes into the physical world. Meaning if I think of a chair and I look at a chair, so now it's like what I'm thinking about is in the physical world. So transmutation means taking something and turning it into something else. We change the constant of the universe, of course, and the most coveted energy transformation is the convert the lead into gold. What people need to realize is that we can transform ideas into reality. An artist does this naturally. Okay, so we transform you think of Michelangelo, when he would see the rock, he would already see the statue in the rock. He wouldn't see the rock. So I want you to think of that. Another example that they give of mental transmutation is like a baker. A baker takes flour, eggs, sugar, milk, and transmute them into a beautiful, delicious cake, right? So now we're taking all these ingredients and we're transmuting them. We're changing their form into a cake. If we think also of the car, the car started out as a vision in the imagination of a person, and others joined the project and synergetically combined their energies, acting even forward. But no matter what, mankind can only create with materials already in existence. So all the materials, everything that we seek is already here. Okay, it's already here. And why I love the power of the mastermind, because the power of the mastermind, what it does, it creates a synergy between everybody in terms of raising the vibration of these ideas. Can you imagine if all of us started thinking like creators? What a wonderful world it would be. We would all be creating so easily. The all is called God by many. He made the all, everything that was and everything that will be. Mental transmutation happens in the mind. So everything happens in the mind. The all made everything by thought. It begins with the mind. No matter what is made, it must begin with an idea. Even when God called light forth from darkness, so when God said, let there be light, it began with a thought before the word. So I want you really to get the order of things. It began with the thought before the word. It was thought in the mind of God.
We say, sorry, yeah, just quickly, you often hear the expression that everything is created twice. Okay, that's what that means. You create it in your mind, in your thinking, and then you transmute it into its actual form. So it's created first in your mind, and then you create it into reality. And your thought process, your using your mental faculties allows you to do that. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's not just art that we're creating. We're also creating our life. See, everybody thinks that we're just creating things. We're creating cars. We're creating chairs. We're creating art. Guys, we're creating our life. Our life is our mental creation, and each one creates their own. Okay, so I want you to keep that in mind as well. The next chapter was the all, and the all is potential energy. So power transmute that energy into matter. So the all basically is just like the energy of thoughts. And what we do is with the law of transmutation is that we transform that energy into matter. So again, from the thought of the chair to the physicality of the chair, the idea of the art into the art, the book that we have in our mind into the physical book. We know that we are living in a universe of thought power. Okay. We know that we are capable of creative thought. We know that we are vibrational entities living in a vibrational realm. And so when we start to take this particular principle and apply it, unravel it, and understand it, what we're doing is unlocking a very, very important key to the knowledge of how to apply this wisdom. Because of the fact that everything in existence emanates from the same source, the all, the mind, the all ideas, right? That means that these same laws, all of these principles and the characteristics of them apply to every single unit of activity, regardless of how minute or how cosmic. So how, big or small, doesn't matter. So isn't that powerful, guys? Oh my gosh.
Well, it lets us understand that our thoughts, we want to be mindful of what we think about. Because your thoughts are always creating. It's not like, okay, you turn on the creation, right, in your mind and say, okay, I'm creating now, and then I'm not creating later. You're always creating. So, I mean, that's a power unto itself. It's a force unto itself that's yours, and you can create whatever you want. And because the universe responds to action, your thoughts are going to require you and your ideas to move and take action on those ideas. And by doing so and using all of your mental faculties, you will produce the result, which is what you will manifest and how you will change your thoughts into things, or whether that's things or opportunities or
your life,
anything
your life. I want you to think. I want you to think about when you're creating art. So your life is an art. It's not just things that we create physically. Yes, we create a chair. It just shows you what you can do from your mind, from thought to reality. And so the same is with your life. And you're saying, well, hey, Pizit, I mean, did I create this car accident? You created the circumstances. If you go back to the thoughts that you were thinking, maybe there was a fear. Maybe there was an underlying thought. This is why it's so important to monitor your thoughts. You want to know what you're thinking. You want to know where your thoughts were, because a lot of them are also habitual. They're thoughts that you picked up. They're thoughts that you picked up, like, from childhood. So a lot of those thoughts go under the radar. Okay, so that's why I want you to become aware. Are your thoughts of lack? Are your thoughts of abundance? Are your thoughts of wealth? You have to start thinking where are my thoughts? Okay. The next one is the mental universe. It says that the principle of mentalism, Dr. Chuck Missler wrote about the universe as a digital stimulation, a hologram. It is not real. It is all in the mind of the all. So they're saying the world is a conception of the all, of our minds, right? So this introduces us to the paradox. The universe is real and it's not. So that's like, that's kind of
that's like going back to the the Matrix.
Absolutely. It
But
really
when you take a look at the universe and you take a look at, for example, people will say that there's not world peace and uprisings and things that are going on the planet. You have to look at the collective. You can see by our outside results what the inner world is doing. So when you take a look at what's happening in the world and you just kind of take a stand back and look at it as a global state, you can see what the global state of consciousness is, because everyone's thoughts collectively are creating the reality that is now. So each of us can make change by taking our own thoughts, monitoring them, and individually, like Pazit was saying before, like drops, individually do our part to raise awareness and consciousness so that we can make an impact, and we can, but we each have a responsibility to do that so that the collective, right, heals.
Right. A good story I can think of is, I don't know if you guys remember, but a couple years back in California, there was a drought. There was no rain for a very, very long time. And they actually show this in Think and Grow Rich. And so there was these two young students that understood the power of the thought. And so what they did is they wrote rain. They wrote "Think Rain" on a card, and they would drive everywhere, and they would broadcast it everywhere, like on the internet, think rain, think rain. And when enough people thought rain, it started to downpour. It started to downpour. So you understand the power of your thoughts, and especially as a collective, the power of the thoughts.
That was like the power of a mastermind, because I remember that.
That's
and it
right.
was like everybody was taking part. They had managed to, to encourage people to,
Think rain.
hashtag think rain, because
That's
it
right.
was so powerful. And so people say, oh, well, what a coincidence. No.
That's it. But it poured for days. It poured for days, for days. So just think of that example. Just think of that example, and just think of how powerful our mind is. Then we go into the divine paradox. I love this one too. And so what is the divine paradox? It's a seemingly absurd or self-contradictory statement or a proposition that, when investigated or explained, may prove to be well-founded or true. So this paradox is a spin-off of the principle of polarity. Do you begin to see how these principles are all integrated? It is the opposition of absolute reality versus relative reality. So in the absolute, the world is an illusion. In the relative plane, we see the world as real. That's the paradox. Okay, so from our vantage point, from the finite mind of humankind, we will see the construct that is very real. So we think, because the world is solid, meaning, the couch we're on, the chair we're in, we call it solid matter. So we think that the world is real, right? But it all comes from our imagination. So is it real or is it imagined, right? So it's very tangible. There's nothing illusionary about it. So that's the paradox. Because we're living in the matrix, people think with strong beliefs and that we can break the law. But the master knows better. People who try to break the law find that the law breaks them. And the law is unbreakable, period. As mentioned in the principle of cause and effect, when you step off a cliff, the law of gravity takes over. If, however, you have a parachute and a hang glider, well, the law of aerodynamics takes precedent, then you aren't breaking the law, but you're following the higher law. So that's the whole idea. The idea is that once you understand these principles, you know how to work with the laws, and you know how to navigate through life. Okay, so if you're going to go jump, you put a parachute on, you'll be fine. Okay, you're going to land safely. So it's the same thing. Okay. And then the final principle, which was the all in all, is the all is not outside the universe, but the all is the universe. And so the all is the universe. We're each like, we're each little universes walking around separately. We're each like, we're all like a little world. I see people as globes. Like each one is a little globe walking on its own. But when we unite, we become like a big globe together. And now we only unite by thought. You can only meet people that are on the same thought or same frequency, if you want, with you. You will not you will not vibrate with people that are not. Okay. So how do you apply the principle of mentalism? Think about it. No, seriously, that's it. You think about it. That's it, guys. You just think about it. So your thought is everything, and you know how something works. And if it doesn't, then you know how to fix it, right, guys? So if something works, it means that your thoughts are on track with what you want. If it's not working, if you're not seeing the out picture of what you want, well, you know that you got to go back into this workshop and do some work. Okay, so it's kind of really
that's
fun.
The paradox, right? That's the part that people are. I mean, we are brought up in a certain way to understand things to be a certain way. So we've been taught a way to think. And the fact is, the way to think is entirely opposite to the way that we've been taught. So we have to learn that we live from the inside out. So in other words, people look at their circumstances, they look what's happening in their life, and they say, look what's happening to me. And when we say it's actually happening for you, it's really it's mirroring to you what you need to go and work on. in your
Yeah.
mind. So if you're seeing lack show up in your environment, whatever lack means to you, and you're feeling that feeling that's not in harmony and not of ease, then you don't go and outside start to fix things. You go inside and you start changing your thoughts. And then we examine habitual thinking, like start noticing what are the thoughts you think about every day that just keep showing up. And if they're not serving you, and if they're not in reflection of what you want on the outside, then you need to change the thinking on the inside. And by law, it will change what shows up on the outside. So I think that's the biggest shift that people make when they start really studying this material, is they
Right.
start living from the inside out instead of what we're accustomed to, which is looking at the circumstances and thinking they happened to us, or someone did it to us, or it's somebody's fault that this happened to us, when in fact we need to just go and self-examine and just change the way we're thinking.
That's right. And why people have so much confusion? You have to understand, only 1% think the way we think. So the chances that you run into people, or that the consciousness that you're around are of people that are not on the same vibration. This is why a lot of the time you're gonna ping pong back between the two realities. You know, which one is real now, right? Which one is real? Like, is it true that I can create from my thoughts? But that's not what I learned. I mean, is it true that I could just go inside and create my reality? Like, I don't have to go buy something to to make it happen. And the bottom line is, that's why a lot of times we kind of ping pong back. So I want you guys to always think about that. But this is the truth. These are the C truths. And the 1%, every single successful person works with these principles. And all these principles are all in the most famous books that everybody is, like Thinking Real Rich, The Science of Getting Rich, Neville Goddard. All these principles are in the book. They reference everything back to the KYBALION. Okay.
And the awareness is funny, right, Pazit? Because, you may have never known about the book, the KYBALION. I know at one point I had no idea it existed. And when I went back into some of these texts that I read regularly, like Neville Goddard, who I love, and Thomas Troward, and all of these amazing writers, all of a sudden I started seeing reference to Hermes and the KYBALION text where I would have never seen it before. Why? Because my awareness just hadn't caught up. Right? It's always been there. My awareness was not at a place where I saw it.
That's right. So you just pass it. So understanding how the universe works moves your vibration up an octave. In the new octave, there are different higher laws that you must learn. And the KYBALION is your master key. Mastery is not possible without it. But having it doesn't guarantee mastery, meaning like you got to work it in your mind. That's where you work. Thought must beget action, or learning does not take place. A cycle of increase, spiraling ever up, or take no action and cycle down, spiral of decrease. There is no static state. It is all relative. If everything is increasing and you are not, you are decreasing relative to everything else. To get from thought of being, you must do. And that's kind of like the quick overview of like 5 chapters.
I like the last part there, which really refers to the fact that I think it's also the piece that when The Secret came out, it was, Rhonda Byrne's way of really bringing this material to the masses, locked into this law of attraction without really talking about the law of vibration and any other laws. So people kind of mistook it to that, oh, I see, I can just think and things will just show up. Like this, genie and magic lamp. I mean, there's a little bit to that. You can create your reality from your thoughts, except that what they don't talk about is the action that you have to take to create your reality. So it's not as simple as winning the lottery, where you just think a thought and, well, sometimes you can manifest things pretty fast.
Yeah.
Right? But most of the time, anything of significance, it's going to require you to do something.
Well, it's like baking the cake, right?
Yeah,
When you get
exactly.
the idea of the cake, you still got to bake the cake. you know, you got to bake the cake, meaning you got to put the, you know, you got to mix the ingredients together, you got to put it in the oven, you know. So action could be something just like that. But action is not forced action. It's not about you, like
it's
it's
inspired
inspired action, which is very, very different. Inspired action is you get an idea. As an artist, it's, I guess, the easiest example I could say is like, I got an idea to write a book, for example. You know, I got an idea to write a book, and I just, you know, and I just started writing it. Okay, it came through me. So it's just an idea, but the action was to write it, you know. And then after I wrote it, the next action was call up Carolyn. It's like, what do I do? Take it over. That was another action, you know, so all these actions, but I was led to it. You see, Carolyn came into my life prematurely. And when I got the download to write the book that I wrote, then Carolyn was already in my life. So you see, everything that you need is already here. No, it's already here. Yeah. It's already here. And by law, you know, by vibrating with the idea, because now I'm vibrating book. So Carolyn, you know what I mean? So book, Carolyn. So what you seek, you know, what you seek is seeking you. So you got to remember that. And these laws make you so powerful, because now you start understanding the world in a very different way. When I started studying these laws, I go outside and I see things very differently. You know, very, very differently. And I think differently. I watch my thoughts. I monitor my thoughts. Yeah. I take the time to when something happens, I don't dwell on it. It's just like, it is what it is. That's the result. But I think to myself, okay, time to shift the pendulum. You know, I call it the pendulum. So everything is in swing. I want you to understand that, like, say, scarcity and abundance are the same. The only thing that separates them is degrees. So think of it like a pendulum. So you have scarcity on this side and abundance on this side. So it's like, where do you want your needle to go? Where do you want the needle to go? And so you, with your mind, you polarize where you want the needle to go. And if you want it on abundance, go there. If you want it on lack, go there. You decide, guys. You decide. But does it just work for abundance, or, you know, like, it works for everything? So relationships, work, promotion, you know,
and everything based on the law of polarity has its polar opposite, right?
But in here, in the KYBALION, they don't speak of polar opposites. They say everything is the same side of, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's only degrees of separation. So we could take like hot and cold. When does it become hot and when does it become cold? When? At what degree? It's different for everyone, right? You guys understand what I'm saying? So it's the same thing, you know. When are you rich and when are you not? You know, like, when? Who decides? Is it when you got $10 in your account that you're not rich anymore? Is it when you got nothing that you're, you know? At what degree does it start, and at what degree does it finish? So of course we'll go more into depths of them, but what I'd like to do is we'd like to open the floor for questions. This is what the Mastermind is here for. If there's anything that you guys need clarity, if there's a situation that you want us to help you clarify, navigate, anything that you can have. This is your time. We're going to give like a few minutes to each person.
Valerie, I know Valerie has a comment in here about the Yoga Sutras. Do you want to give us a little bit more information about that? I don't know if Valerie's.
There's Tracy.
That was actually Tracy, but
I'm sorry. It is Tracy. Yes.
Tracy,
okay.
Take it away. I have a story to share though, but first Tracy.
Okay, Tracy, go ahead. Sorry about that. Yes, it is your comment there. And I saw Valerie's just underneath. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, the Yoga Sutras, which is very difficult to understand. I studied them for about 8 years. They go on about a lot of these principles, and much of it was taken into religions and other philosophies.
That's right.
But the thing is, it's almost like a puzzle. And from what I'm reading in the KYBALION, even though it's still quite deep and you have to take it in, it seems to be far more accessible. So it's like these principles exist. Well, these principles obviously existed forever anyway. But they were, in the Yoga Sutras, are about 5,000 years old. And they figure they were even older because they were passed on orally before Pentageli, who was a doctor and had money and means, traveled all over to collect them. And so that's, I find it interesting how there's nothing new under the sun. Everything just keeps coming back. And as you mentioned with like Napoleon Hill and that, it's all the same principles being repeated for whatever the society is at the time in a way that can be understood.
Exactly. You nailed it. It's exactly that. It's exactly that. It's like, why are there so many teachers in the world? Because you might understand more when I say something. Somebody might understand more when Carolyn says something. Someone will understand something when, Charlene says it, or Wendy or Tracy. It's our voice. It's the way that we bring it, I love Louise Hay refers to that, she'd be like, I have like 10 speakers on stage. We all say the same thing. And then somebody says, oh, when Wayne said it, now I understood. And she's like, I've been saying it for years. But it also goes to the same principle where Carolyn was reading a book, and until I didn't mention the KYBALION and Hermes, she never picked up the name in the book, and she's been reading these books for years. So this is what awareness does.
Yeah.
You start noticing. It's no longer a puzzle anymore. It's more like, okay, now I have the picture of the puzzle. I know where the pieces go. So I'm going to build my puzzle,
Yeah.
easily.
And you don't think of the study becomes something that isn't like, okay, well, if I have time, I'll go in and kind of read this stuff through every day, or I'll study it.
Right.
It becomes like you're compelled to be in the study of the material because you actually understand what this master key means. It means the more you study it, the more aha moments, as we call them, you'll get, the more awareness, your mind expands, and then you start figuring out things that you didn't have access in your mind to figure out before. Like, in other words, if you have a challenge or something you perceive to be a challenge, it would mean something that you can't quite figure out a solution for right now. When you start to study this and you put yourself in the calmness of mind and you invite this awareness and this material and this knowledge in, you understand that there's a solution for everything, right? So you now know that you don't have to be worried about not finding solutions, because if you ask yourself the questions and if you understand your power, you'll be able to find solutions to whatever you want. So your state of being becomes like you just flow you become part of the flow of life instead of there's always things standing in your way. You just find the way you live your life shifts, it changes. So this study, if you are willing to just take 10 minutes a day, just to take the material, find like this book, for example, and then just take a couple of paragraphs. I mean, there's a reason why Bob Proctor has studied Think and Grow Rich for 58 years. The same text, because every time he reads it, even now, there's something new in his awareness that expands, that allows him to find what he needs for all of the things that he's decided he wants.
Well, that's it. I think also we've been trained to like read a book and put it on the side, and that doesn't really work, and jump from book to book, and we become like book junkies. I say, stay solid, stay with like the principles that you feel. I stay with the books that really vibrate. When I read them, I feel like they vibrate. I know they speak the truth. So when I picked up the KYBALION, I knew right away that this book spoke to me. It speaks the truth. I didn't have to go ask anybody. I knew, this book, like we say, everybody that's here is because they were attracted to be here. You were looking for see truth as well. This is why you're here. So the only way to be able to apply these principles is really by studying them deeply, contemplating them, and applying them to your own situation on a daily basis. So studying should be part of your everyday thing. Listen, if you guys wash dishes, that's something of a lower, I'm not telling you guys not to wash dishes, but I'm just saying, like, we do things like doing our bed, and we do things that are mundane, not so important for our evolution as a person, when really the evolution is expanding our awareness. So if you can give like 10-20 minutes to clean the house, why don't you give 10-20 minutes to tap into study every single day? Have it on your calendar. Make sure you do not go to bed without reading a paragraph. You know, one paragraph. You don't have to do much. You don't have go at your own pace. You know, but you study and you apply. You study and you apply. You study and you apply, and then you become like a pro athlete. You know, this is mental alchemy.
Yeah.
This is mental alchemy. You want to study this because A, you want to be able to pass it down from generation to generation. And two, your life is going to be, I mean, how much fun, imagine if you can create chairs and you can create like cups and you can create art and you can create yoga. Imagine how much fun it is to create your house, the car you want, the lifestyle you want. How much fun is that?
And the people that you want to attract into your life, the type of people you want to be in business with, this is all it's all energy. We're, as Bob says, an ocean of motion. We never rest. We're always moving, we're always creating, we're always attracting a different, so you start understanding that the people you surround yourself, with, and the people that you study with, and the people that come into your life are usually a reflection of where you're at. So if there's a group of people that just feel like they're not in line with you, then you want to seek a group that is. Okay, I just want to go into the chat here because there are some questions.
Sure, so that's good too.
Okay, so Andrew had to leave us because he's losing bandwidth on his mountain. It's fine. We'll see Andrew again next week. Okay, so Gabriella says, so what is the outline? To read a passage and then we'll discuss it on our call. I think, we can put that out to the mastermind. I think that we wanted to introduce it today and go through the very first and most important principle to really understand that ties it all together. So you all have the text. Would you want to go and read your text? So during the week and study it and then come back to next week's class. And we leave the first part of the meeting open for questions or things that you want to know more in depth about from the chapter. Does that make sense, Gabriella? Is that something you'd like to do?
Yeah, I think everybody has the books. So next week we said that we're going to be covering the two other principles, right? I think it's correspondence and I don't know them in order, but I think correspondence for sure.
Yeah, the correspondence and vibration.
Yes, what we do suggest is that you read them on your own. Absolutely, get the understanding. Read them every day this week. They're very they're very short. In the book, there's like a summary version. There's a summary version, so at least read the summary version. It's like one, half a page each or something like that. That's easy peasy. Okay, if you want to go more in depth, definitely, if you have more time, I would make the time to go more in depth. These laws are going to help you. They're going to help you create the reality that you want. They're going to make you master creators. And so why wouldn't you want to spend time on this? This is like so much fun. This is how I create, how Carolyn creates. I create everything from my mind, the people I want to attract, the opportunities that I want, the people that I want to meet. Everything is done in my mind first, and then I go out into the world and I just attract it. It comes to you like a seed.
It's like the universe conspires to get you to where you want to be.
Yes.
So Charlene is I'm just mentioned her comment question. How do we get this mind process into the mainstream? Well, this is how. What we're doing right here. This is how.
Because through masterminds and as they grow.
Into the mastermind, and all of you bring it out into the world. So it says the media and unconsciousness is a surge like a tidal wave. There is so much distortion. Well, that shows you where other people's minds are, and they're the 99%, because there's 1% of people who really are studying and understand and apply. So as part of that 1%, we have a lot of sharing to do. Right? We want to bring this material, and so what we do is we learn how to master it.
Yeah, they say
study and master it ourselves.
Yeah, in the KYBALION, they say you're either the master or you're the pawn, meaning you're either played. If you don't know the material, because you lack the knowledge, you're being played with, because you don't know. It's like playing a game, but you don't know the rules. You know what I mean? You don't know the rules. So, you're set up to lose. You're set up to lose. Now, if you know the rules of the game, don't you think you're set up to win? Because now at least you have a chance, right? At least you have a chance. Now you're like, okay, well, I know the rules. I know what I got to do. I know that my thoughts create reality. I know I'm not crazy. I know there's 1% of us, and the 1% are really the ones that have the kind of success that I'm looking to get in my life. Not only they have amazing relationships, they have good relationships with their spouses. You know, they're rich on many levels, not just financially. They're also physically fit. They do well, and they teach. If you notice anything about the people that are very well to do, they all teach, they mentor, they guide, they lead. They're leaders. You guys are all leaders. This is why you're here. So so now you can actually like sit back, relax, and kind of laugh at the world, and you can be like, oh, what a mess I made. Okay, so now let's clean it up. Well, anyways, at least that's what I thought in certain areas of my life, you know. I said, oh, what a mess I made. Okay, all right, Pizzy, let's clean this up. And I would just go in my mind, picture what I want. We do, even in the KYBALION, they work with images, thoughts and images. Okay, so you work with the images that you want. You build your life, what kind of lifestyle you want, what kind of relationship you want. Even if you're already in a relationship, how do you see your relationship? Do you want it more loving? Do you want more romance? Do you want more intimacy? You know, you get to create all that. You get to create all that by your thought. And because you're in the collective, especially partners and partnerships, it's amazing because it's the two minds that work in unity together. So the power is even stronger. That's why the power of the mastermind is so strong, because now I believe today, or there's like 12 people on the mastermind. As we move forward, we'll multiply, right? And we grow and we grow and we grow. And so that will change the consciousness. It's more like think rain. It's like think creator. Think creator, guys. Okay, take your power back. Take your power back. And your power is the power of your mind, the power to choose your thought, the power not to react, but the power to respond and to be like, oh, why did I feel that? Hold on, wait a minute. She did something or he did something. I felt something. Why am I feeling that? Okay, no, I don't need to feel that. I don't need to respond like that. And then you realize why you're responding like that is probably because something that happened in your childhood, you know, when somebody would upset you, you would maybe get quiet and not say anything, you know, maybe that was your way of dealing with it. And you didn't feel good inside. So now you start to be aware, oh, when a certain person did this is how I felt. But I know that I get to control how I feel because nothing really is. Nobody did anything to me.
Right.
So you start understanding all these principles, and all of them are like a dance. They're like a dance. So as we will go through the next 3 weeks, we're going to start dancing really in harmony all together.
I know that Doug Dane, who we worked with, who's right hand to Bob Proctor, he did an experiment with some clients who were struggling, or they felt that their relationships were not what they really and truly wanted with their significant other. So they would come with a certain amount of displeasure. So, you know, when you think about when you complain about something, right? You complain about it. Well, you just give more energy to it. And the more you complain about it, the worse it's actually going to get. It's not going to get better because you're complaining about it. So he did an experiment with these particular people. And he said, okay, so for the next X number of weeks, I want you to picture your spouse the way you want them. You want the relationship to be. What are the qualities, not the person? You can't fix people, but you can change the way you think about the situation. So in other words, let's shift your thinking from complaining, which is basically focusing on all the things you don't like, all the things that are wrong. And we're going to change the way we think, and we're going to imagine the relationship with the qualities that you desire. You're going to imagine that person responding to you in the ways that you would like them to, and to receive that, and only focus on that and bring that into your energy of your relationship. And within a really short period of time, all the relationships changed. Right? Only by the power of one person changing the thought in the dance. Because you know, when you're in a dance with somebody, okay, if we're dancing and I change my step, you've got to change yours, right? To stay in sync with the dance. You can't keep dancing the same dance when I'm doing another dance. We've got to now get back into sync. So if you change the way you think about things, the things you think about will change. That's the power of your thoughts. And I remember once, I don't remember what seminar it was at, somebody said to Bob Proctor, they said, you mean I got to monitor my thoughts? And he said, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you do.
You want to get the things you want to get. You want to live a life that you want to live, that you love, love, love waking up every morning. That means you have to monitor your thoughts. Is that a big thing for you to do to get to live the life that you want and have anything that you want? Yes, you monitor your thoughts.
Yeah.
Right?
It's
and
wonderful.
That becomes your
Yeah.
habit. When that becomes your habit, when your habitual thoughts go from the random unconsciousness of the habitual, tens of thousands of thoughts that we think a day that are just the same regurgitation of yesterday's thoughts and habits and habitual ways of thinking and feeling and behaving. As soon as you go to the root and start rethinking the way you think, your emotions change, your behavior changes, your results change. That's how powerful just changing your thinking is.
Absolutely. Carolyn, you made a very good point, and I wanted just to reiterate it. A lot of the thoughts that we picked up are not even ours. They're not even ours, but they feel like they're ours because we've had those thoughts for so long, but they're not even ours. They've been handed down, not just from your parents, from generation to generation. And it's not until somebody comes and breaks the chain, okay, that the thoughts start changing. And when do the thoughts start changing? When you take your power back, when you're immersed in the study, when you start understanding this material, your mind will never be the same. And
your life will
that's
change.
How you begin to change.
Your life has it has no choice but to change, because the universal laws are always in play. They don't turn on and off. You know, man-made laws change. We can change the laws of the rules of the road, for example, the driving code, their laws. We can change them anytime because they're man-made. These are not. They never, ever change. And I've said this before on calls. I find such a comfort in that I know that if I apply what I've learned and I monitor what I'm thinking about and I disengage from reactionary to response. So in other words, things that happen, we go, that person did that, or you made me feel this way. You know, you hear that a lot. She says, well, that person made me feel bad. Not so. You are the ones that had a certain thought in reaction to what they said, which made you feel bad, but they didn't do that to you, but they did it for you, because then it gave you an opportunity to look at, why did that trigger me? Where does that come from? It's not reality. I get to create reality. So you take your power back, and you can start doing that right now.
That's right. So Carolyn, that was amazing. And I hope you guys all enjoyed it. I wanted to go through just a few questions before we wrap it up. Believe it or not, guys, there goes an hour. It goes so fast when you're masterminding. So Charlene asked if what do we think about vision boards? And if hold on, let me go back. I think the question went up. Something about vision boards. If they work.
About vision boards, I have a friend who's a great leader in vision boards.
Right. So vision boards. Okay. So I love vision boards, but only if there is feeling behind it. What happens is when people cut out things, sometimes you don't feel like a feeling towards it. It just feels like, okay, this is what I want. And you put it, if there's no feeling, it's not going to work. Exactly. That's why. And also when you do vision boards, I strongly suggest to do a vision portrait, because when you see yourself, there's an emotional connection right away. See yourself as having already achieved your goal. You know, see yourself as that famous author. See yourself as that famous athlete, whatever you're going for. I know, for example, Natalie, she's an artist. So see yourself already as that artist, the way you see yourself. Like, are you a very in-demand artist? Like, picture yourself what you would look like. How, if you had an event, what would you show up like? What kind of places are you going to? Mold yourself, picture yourself already as that person. That is way more powerful. And then around it, you can put all the things that you want. But I personally prefer to only have one thing at a time. I find it's more powerful when you have one thing to focus on a time. That's what I've noticed from my experience, from visions. So if your goal is to attract wealth, let it just be wealth. Don't be like wealth, relationship, all these things. It's too much. The mind can only go to one address at a time. It works like a GPS.
Yeah.
You cannot put more than one address at a time. So decide if you want the relationship first, if you want the wealth first, whatever it is, decide. It doesn't mean you're not going to get them together, but decide which one you want to go first. Sometimes it might come together. You can get a relationship that comes with money. Okay. Yeah. So it's kind of fun,
feeling good. I mean, you want to get
Exactly.
yourself, this is a completely different class, and we'll cover it probably next week when we get into the law of, vibrational energy. But we've covered this in the 11 laws. You want to be always feeling good. And how do you do that? Well, you think thoughts and of things that make you feel good. Right.
Yeah.
And
it's more powerful. Caroline, sorry, it's more powerful to think of yourself, like, say, for example, driving that certain car that you want to drive, than to just have a picture of
a car. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. So if you have a picture of a car, it's fantastic, but then see yourself, close your eyes, drive it, feel.
Well, I go a step further. When I travel, I rent vehicles that I like, that I want to drive. If it's this vehicle and I want to upgrade to this one, then I go and I drive that one. I don't just go and think about it or imagine. I get in it, right?
That's right. So you can feel it, but also you could do it by the power of imagination.
Yeah.
Right. But you can also do it by the power of imagination. So say, for example, you don't have the car you want. You can get into the car that you have and imagine that it's the car that you want.
Yeah.
I did it a lot. I would manifest all my cars that way. Okay. So at the time, like, I don't know if I had a Volvo and I wanted a Mercedes, when I would drive the Volvo, I would even touch the steering wheel and I would feel the Mercedes thing. And a year after, I had my Mercedes. Okay. So sometimes it comes faster, sometimes it doesn't. Depend. I had a lease at the time and I didn't know all these principles. But once you know these principles, you're also able to manifest and steer your mind and manifest faster, because you're working with the laws. You're in harmony now. You're vibrating. Everything is aligned. The way you think, the way you feel, the way you picture. So yeah. So So feel it. Okay, guys. So we're going to wrap it up. So we want to thank everybody for showing up today. It was wonderful to have you all here. We're going to take you through the 7 principles as we come for the next week. Study the 2 of them. Carolyn will just go over what the 2 are. It's correspondence and vibration. So do the study, stay in the study, and know that you guys are on the right track. Okay, you're on the right track. Although we're not many, we're here to support you. That's the power of the mastermind. You're on the right track. Keep one track minded thoughts. So stay on track with your mind as a creator. You've got the power. Okay, don't tippy-toe back from one to the other. Just know that this works. We do it. We are living proof of it. And if we can do it, you can do it. And you've already done it. You do it every day.
Exactly.
You do it every day. It just depends what results you're getting. But now you know how to change your results. Okay. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all next week with so much fun sharing.
And if any of you have any questions in the meantime, you know how to reach out to either of us. We have the Millionaire Mentors page, so you can reach out to us on Facebook and ask any questions for those of you who are in this specific group study. Don't hesitate to ask a question if you have one, and certainly bring them next week, because that's the place to ask. And we get everyone's questions and everyone's inquiries and everyone's amazing energy in the room. So your question helps somebody else, right? So it's really important.
Yeah, and practice, guys. What I would suggest, if you guys want an exercise for the week, why not? Let's lift some weights, guys. Write down the thoughts that go through your mind. Write the thoughts. Like, you'd be surprised. Like, write the thoughts that go through your mind. In a day. And see where your thoughts are. That'd be really interesting. And then you know how to use the power of transmutation. So you get to, like, how can I take this thought and transmute it onto something else that I want? Okay, so have fun, play with these laws.
With it. Yeah, it's fun.
Play with it, okay? Play with the laws. Don't just study them. Play with them. Okay, so take an idea that you have, write down some thoughts, think of one thing you want to change. One thing. Don't go crazy. One thing you want to change, and use the law of transmutation to shift it from one side to the other by the power of your thoughts and thinking the opposite. All right.
Charlene, I'll just mention here quickly before we close. Charlene is wants to sell her home. Her home is on the market, so she's going to focus her attention on what it feels like to sign the sale document.
Absolutely, Charlene. Absolutely. I've actually helped quite a few people sell their houses. By mind. Yeah, it's so much fun. So even we can use the power. If ever you want something, if you want to use the power of the mastermind, we can all power up together to make it happen for you, Charlene. So let us know maybe for the next mastermind if you want us to power up and help you seeing your house sold. We'll all think the same thought as a collective.
Yeah, very powerful.
Okay. So if you guys have like requests like that, please bring it to the mastermind. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody. Thank you so much. We loved having you here. We can't wait to see you all again next Sunday at 7 a.m. Such bright-eyed everybody. Wendy, did you have a question? Wendy Long. I just want to check. Oh, I thought you had a question. I thought your hand was up, honey.
Oh, no. I was just right now.
Okay.
It's all good. All right, guys. So thank you again for showing up. Welcome to the 1%. And yeah, let's go play, guys. Let's go play. Let's go have some fun. All right.
See you next week.
Have a great week.
Have a great week.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.